And we don't have audio. So let's take oh, we got it. Okay, never mind. We're back. Okay. The one last thing we need to do, we lost the meeting to the dogs. Yeah. It's all right. We'll give them a minute. All right. If I can get everyone's attention back, I know we just want to play with dogs all day. We do still need to make a motion to adopt our proclamation.
Excellent. I would move that we proclaim April 30th, 2023 as National Therapy Animal Day.
All right, and I will second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Well, thank you again for being here. We will get you our photo video release so you can use the photos we took today. And I always enjoy this day. This is like one of my favorite proclamations because there's dogs. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Next up, Casey, did we have an addition to our proclamation?
I think we're moving things around a little, Chair. We've had some technical difficulties today, too. Microsoft updates, but let's if you would entertain having my sisters or my safe place come up, and let's take advantage of switching our proclamation from treatment to sexual assault awareness. And I would be happy to read the proclamation. So is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. In the matter of proclaiming April 2023 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Lincoln County. Whereas freedom from sexual assault is a basic human right. Sexual assault affects every Oregonian, whether as a victim or survivor, or as a family member, friend, partner, neighbor, employer, or coworker. And whereas about 1 in 4 adult women in Oregon have been the victim of rape, and nearly 1 in 5 men in Oregon has experienced sexual violence in their lifetime. Whereas compassionate, courageous, and dedicated individuals, local organizations, and other partners have provided services and support for victims and survivors and worked to prevent sexual violence for decades. And whereas sexual violence is preventable and all communities are strengthened when we promote healthy and safe attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors, while also working to eliminate tolerance for violence. And whereas every individual and community in Oregon has a role to play to help eliminate sexual violence by promoting social change. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important work done by My Safe Place, Celeste Care Program, Lincoln County District Attorney's Office, the Lincoln County Domestic and Sexual Violence Council, the members of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Lincoln County. And we urge all citizens to work with these invaluable community agencies to help alleviate this problem in our county. Welcome.
Thank you. If you could introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, my name is Amber Wishoff Martin. I'm the director of My Safe Place, also known as My Sister's Place. We're excited to be here. I stand here alone at this table, but there are so many people, as you read on that list, that join us in supporting survivors during this month. It is sexual assault and sexual violence is something that happens in every community. It heavily impacts ours. We are working on some initiatives to improve our services as a community through the council and with our sexual assault response team. We've got some amazing developments that I know you guys have been also been a huge part of with developing and supporting more sexual assault nurse examiners. And that is in full swing. We've had a great increase in support for survivors by being able to support them directly in our community by having more nurses. They are amazing and really diving into their new roles beautifully. It's been, you kind of tend to expect more bumps when you're adding new people in, and it's been pretty seamless so far. So we're really excited about the new ways that we're able to support survivors just immediately. We work in partnership whenever there's a sexual assault to support survivors through whatever restorative justice looks like for them. So Oftentimes that can be through an exam and through law enforcement interviews. Sometimes that's not. So we navigate that side with the survivor. But when we do get to that point of needing the exam and working with law enforcement, we've just seen a lot of great movement and people rising to the challenge of supporting survivors, which has been so beautiful, because previously, when we haven't had nurse examiners in our area or law enforcement able to respond to these calls, we're having to go out to Albany, and it can mean quite a long ordeal when it's already been a really trying time for survivors. So it's exciting to see the developments, and we're really proud to be spreading awareness and just inviting the community as a whole to gather information. The info I have in the basket is just talks a little bit on the front about some ways to get involved. And then there's a info sheet about how to understand sexual violence. But we have the proclamations that we're starting here today. And also on the 26th, there's an observance of International Denim Day, which I have on the flyers more information about what that exactly means. And there is a fundraiser that's being done for survivors by Reconnections that is on the 28th. And so the proceeds for that will all go directly to support sexual assault survivors in our community. So we highly encourage people to come. That is at the Reconnections Annex with a $12 suggested donation and for a dinner and presentation that they've prepared. So we're really excited to be working with them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here today, and thank you for Commissioner Miller to squeezing you in on the agenda. I'm really, really happy to hear that we now have some SANEs trained up at Pacific Communities Hospital. I had worked on this previously along with Ellen Branford from the DA's office and DA Danforth and Dr. Ogden, and it's just really challenging there for a while. We didn't have anyone locally trained, so I'm just really happy to hear that we have a couple of people here at our local hospital. That's wonderful news. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Katie, I feel like you worked on that early in your tenure. Was it?
It was kind of in the middle of COVID, actually, that some of
Okay.
this had come up, and we had, we did have SANEs available at North Lincoln, but not here at Pacific Communities Hospital. And I think there was a little bit of kind of a misunderstanding where some leadership at Samaritan really felt like going to Albany was the best choice, like that was what everyone would want. So I think it took kind of some education and talking about that's really not necessarily what everyone wants. Everyone kind of wants to go home, right? You know, maybe not an hour and a half ride one way. So then it was just trying to find medical providers that were willing to go through the training. I mean, that was part of that. But we did have some wonderful people in this community that stepped up, that went through there. And my understanding is it sounds like they are now hired and doing that. So yeah, happy to hear that that came together.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like one part of the work that's been going into this. We have had a lot of effort in working on the bigger picture of trying to pull that kind of information into our community. And it isn't even just that going to Albany is and going to Sarah's Place is an amazing experience. It is a beautiful trauma-informed space, and the survivors are really well cared for there. But just to give a little perspective on what that means, it's even first getting to the point of coming to a hospital, a local hospital, and then having like the process of getting to see if there's the SANE that was available. And for a while we didn't have anyone. So it was already meeting with a client and finding a way out of county. It could be like a 3, 4, 5, 6 hour process just to get to the point where we were going out to Sarah's Place. And that was really impactful for clients as well as advocates. And we had, there's been only 3 for the majority, 3 advocates, one from CAC that was trained in the middle of COVID, one person from CARE, Jen Metcalf, Lizzie Martinez is the sexual assault advocate with CAC, and then myself. And I could be gone for 24 hours just handling this one thing, which then is impactful for, it's just all the way around. It's so much better to have it here and being able to respond immediately for those things. So
and then there wasn't always rides available. There was a disconnect with even finding a ride. And sometimes it's not like we have 500 taxi cabs right in Newport just circling. So sometimes even waiting for a cab to get there to take someone over was, an hour or longer wait. So like I said, I'm just really happy that we finally have some saints in Newport. It's wonderful.
Madam Chair, a couple quick questions. The difference between sexual abuse and sexual assault, I mean, are those qualitatively different things or really the same thing?
From our standpoint,
Yeah.
the survivor gets to self-identify what their experience is between rape, sexual abuse, or sexual assault. Typically, sexual abuse is, at least from my perspective, ongoing, whereas a sexual assault is a one-time instance.
Gotcha.
But we never label things for survivors, and that's even like victim tends to be a legal term, whereas we try to use survivor,
Yeah.
but everyone gets to self-identify. We're the soft place in the hard systems. And so as advocates, we get to explain what the options are and demonstrate how partnerships can work and kind of make the spread of these are the buffet of options, and we get to work through what that means for people, and restorative justice looks different for everybody. So that's what we aim for.
Well, last question for you. Appreciate this so much. What are the top things that you think people may not understand, they might benefit from understanding about assaults that they don't know that would help them advocate for others? Probably a lot, right?
Yeah, and I do on the back of our flyer have more information, and that's available at many of our community partners as well, and we'll have some here. But I think there's so many things that pop to mind. First, we never want to blame victims. That's consent is a big part of the culture that we're trying to change. Consent for any sexual or physical contact should be freely given, enthusiastic yes. If it doesn't meet that criteria, then that's not consent, and that needs to be taken into consideration. The other thing about sexual assault that I think most people in movies and media don't particularly help with is that the general like Hollywood version is that it's something that happened from like walking on the street at night and from a complete stranger. The likelihood of someone knowing the person who has assaulted them is far greater than it is that stranger incident that happens. Most survivors know the person who has assaulted them.
Well, thank you, Amber, and everyone involved for bringing the awareness level up and the care level. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And we do have a captive audience, so we should get some of the brochures out.
Yes, I
to
will
our-
be passing that back
to our
around.
people. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your ongoing support.
And I will make a motion that we proclaim. Actually, I think you have the.
April, there you go.
That we proclaim April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Awesome.
carries. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amber.
All right, moving on.
There's a little bit under your stuff.
I put it
Uh-huh,
somewhere. There it
gotcha.
is. That's right.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the adoption of the consent calendar. Quite a big one today, again, because we're meeting only the first and third Wednesdays now. These are items of a routine nature, but either staff or commissioners can pull an item for discussion or further information. Is there anything that staff or Commissioner Miller wants to pull from the consent calendar?
I do want to highlight
Okay.
that we have a new budget committee member, John Heath. John, could you stand up back there? Would you mind? Or we will after we approve the consent calendar. John, thank you so much for joining the team this year. And just a quick note to the community, our budget meetings will begin May 16th, and we've got a more robust, thorough process this year. That information will be online soon, and appreciate John, who's also a board member on the Glen Eden Beach Special Road District Board. And I think you're going to be a great asset to the team. And thanks to Administrator Johnson too, for just pulling everything together for budget. And I know you had some conversations with John too, so green light.
Yeah, thank you, John. That's what you get
Yeah.
for showing up every week as we. put
Yeah,
on a-
and you're in it now.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
The other thing I wanted to highlight is HA, which is ARPA funds regarding portable road signs. So these are tow trailers that you can program to say things. We had a huge need for these during COVID and wildfires and tsunami. warnings and all kinds of things. So we finally do have some. Thank you, Roy Kenyon, for tracking those down. And I'm hoping that staff and partners in the room will think about how they might be able to use those when we have flu clinics with HHS or other activities going on. We can tow those somewhere, drop them on the side of the road or at an event and program them to say what we need them to say. So
Madam Chair, you
Yeah.
saved a lot of money on this.
it was,
Pretty
because they
amazing.
were used.
Yeah.
So it was really Roy that did that.
Well,
But
awesome.
anyways, happy
These are
about that.
great.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go.
Ready to make a motion?
I would move that we adopt the consent calendar.
Okay, I will make a second to that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thanks. Okay, moving on to discussion information. First up is Newport High School pageant fundraiser for Newport School-Based Health Center. So I think we have several high school presenters. Feel free to drag some chairs up.
And you're jumping a little ahead here, Madam Chair.
Oh, did I, what I?
Just so we can get them going. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, we did move the high school students up because I realized they probably need to get back to school. So
Okay.
they may not like that about me, but you know.
Yeah, I need to get my stuff.
No, that's, oh, that is decision action.
It's kind of
Oh, I
hard to
thought
see.
that was consent calendar. Oh, okay, I messed that up.
That's all right.
That's all right. We're good.
Hello.
I
Hi,
thought
good
it was
morning.
good.
My name is Amy Lundy. I'm the School-Based Health Center Program Supervisor with Lincoln Community Health Clinic under Lincoln County, and I will let the students introduce themselves.
Good morning. I'm Piper Thompson. I'm a senior at Newport High School, and I'm a very involved participant of leadership. And I also participated in the 2023 NHS pageant this year.
Hi, I'm Emily Weiss. I'm a sophomore this year at NHS, and I'm involved with a lot of activities outside the school that include students that are also in our school, so I'm able to help out, maybe not always in the school, but outside as well.
I'm Lilybelle Bassenwright. I'm a senior this year and I also participated in the pageant.
I'm Blair Thompson, and I'm a sophomore, and I'm in NHS leadership.
So the NHS pageant happens every year. It happens in the spring, February, March area. And each year we choose a organization to donate money to. So this year we chose the School-Based Health Center. Last year we chose Samaritan House. And so each contestant, so there's pairs of contestants and they get together and fundraise money. And all of that money in the end will go to the selected organization. So.
Along with that, this pageant used to be named Mr. NHS in previous years. You may have heard of it. It's been an ongoing tradition for how
It was
long-
there when I was there.
Yes, yeah, very long.
But a problem that we noticed last year and we chose to address this year was that it wasn't an inclusive title. It was Mr. NHS, and there's a plaque that only represented the boy partners of the senior pairs. And so we changed the name to NHS pageant to make it inclusive of our student population and make it more accessible and more representative. Along with
I found this on the web.
I'm so sorry.
Along with fundraising, we have various different activities throughout the week that will be talked about later. And we have several assemblies, like a kickoff assembly, and we have our pageant assembly where we perform for the students.
Okay. So our school-based health center is located on our west campus, down at the end of the hallway. And so they have birth control, they have mental health resources. You can get physical checkups, for sports or just, for your health. They take all health insurance and they take students who do not have health insurance. So it is really accessible to any student that needs it. It's confidential unless the student would like to share the information with their parents. And so another thing is they have clothing for students who need it. And the great part about it, it's located in the school. Students are able to, they don't need a ride to go to the hospital. They're able to just, walk down the hall and So yeah, it's a really great part about it. It's super accessible for students. So.
And then I'm just gonna introduce our contestants this year. We had 6 senior pairs, so a total of 12 students in total participated. These included John Weiss and Emma Schaffner, Piper Thompson and Gail Maldonado Galicia, Sam Hurst and Lane Phillips, Eduardo Romero Yanez and Landon Cunningham, Victoria Smith and Keenan Williams, and Jack Kozlowski and myself.
So we have a lot of benefits of the NHS pageant, and so there's a lot of opportunities that are risen with it, so.
Yeah, so basically, one of the skills students learn to do is professionally ask community members for donations. And I think that's really important. It builds a basis for, being professional, like moving forward. And it also, obviously it's great because all the money will go directly to the student, like directly back to the students somehow or to our community. And also the other thing, students get really excited for it. It's only a senior thing. So, students go to Newport High School and, they're waiting till senior year to do it. So that's kind of fun. It's very fun, healthy competition. So, and yeah, it's really great to get the student body excited for, all this type of stuff that we're doing that benefits our schools. So, yeah.
And so also with some of our activities, the sophomore class put on the dance this year that went along with the theme, which was like 50s greasers. And so there was the court had to do like a dance that was choreographed by our principal.
What?
And there was a lot of events with that. And we also did a spirit week. So we had dress up days that people dressed up with. And so like one of them was like dressed like you're from a movie and stuff like that. And there was a student versus staff basketball game where the court played against some staff members that were signed up on the team. And it's a fundraiser, like you can bribe the referees to like get them free throws. and different
basketball
things.
game. Yeah.
So it really helps fundraise. And we also had other activities like a dodgeball tournament that was just kind of for fun to get other grades involved in it. So that it was more inclusive with that. And then we also had the teddy bear toss, which is during the halftime of the varsity basketball game. And so basically that just fundraised to help get a bunch of teddy bears and give them to people who need them and like fundraise for that. And then we also had like the assemblies, like we said, that help introduce the event. So, yeah.
In total, all the contestants raised $11,592.88.
Wow.
The 2023 NHS pageant winners were Piper Thompson and Gail Maldonado. He could not make it today, but he wanted to join. And yeah.
Yeah. So individually, Kyle, so there's like a rubric of, how they do it. So the pageant includes a talent, a group dance, which we did. You're the one that I won from Greece. So that was super fun. And then there's questions and they're kind of based around the theme of Greece. So it's like, what character would you be? So they're kind of fun like that. And then there's your formal wear. So you go out with your partner in something formal. And so that was really cool. Altogether, Gail and I raised $3,817, and I don't remember how many cents it was, but so yeah, it was a great way to just give back to, our community, and it directly affects the students, which is super great. So
Those were the highest amounts ever raised by a senior pair.
So, well, congratulations. Good
Thank
job. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, wait, don't go anywhere yet. Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for supporting the school-based health center. And I'm just curious, any of you, anything that was hard that you were intimidated about doing, maybe even like the fundraising that got easier, or just your thoughts, anyone?
for me, it can be a little, it's definitely intimidating to go ask people for
Mhm.
money, but it taught me how to, write a professional letter, make sure you get thank you cards out. And the other thing that was a little nerve wracking was performing a talent. That was the other thing that, I was super nervous about, but
Yeah.
overall it was super great. So
I've seen how John Travolta dances, and I know I can't even get anywhere in the ballpark. So, well, thank you so much. Anyone else? Any other thoughts?
Something that I noticed was because we're in pairs, you have to work with a partner, and that can be difficult sometimes. And so it really like, it teaches you how to work with somebody else, especially for those of us who are very independent in our leadership styles.
Excellent.
Well, I guess I'm curious how the asking for money went. I mean, obviously it went well with the amount of money that was raised, but I mean, that's a tough skill to ask
Mhm,
people
it
for
is.
money. So how was that for all of you that did that?
I put together a letter and we printed them out, and Guile and I signed all of them. We sealed them and we delivered them to businesses. Sometimes we'd email them, sometimes we'd call them. So that was our main way to do it. We put together a letter kind of explaining everything.
Mm.
So
Nice.
For my partner and I, it was very difficult sometimes because we also put together a letter, and sometimes we would give it to a business or somebody and they would say that they were going to get back to us and they never would.
Mhm.
So it was difficult finding people who would actually follow up. It was also difficult just like figuring out boundaries of who you can ask,
Mhm.
because it could be awkward sometimes when you're asking every single person you know for money. So-
Right.
I will just say that for those of you that aren't seniors yet, like Blair, I don't think any of us got a letter. So next time you pass on to the juniors this year, I don't think anyone in this office got asked. So we're an untapped resource.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, make sure to.
Like our
reach out to us.
HHS director back there and Sheriff Landers, right? I mean, there's several untapped people probably in this audience, so you could kind of pass that down to.
I had to help
The
my
people for
brother
next year.
get money from people, and so it was like kind of like we were trying to combine like who we knew. Like we went to a lot of people that like we knew personally. It was just kind of this weird thing where like I wasn't necessarily like, I'm not in the pageant, but I was like helping him, and it was just like this weird like I was helping behind the scenes, but no one really knew. So like even like putting stuff on, like we got our mom to put it on Facebook. Like we went, it was really like you're trying to get like the most money, like competition wise. So
Yeah.
it was really trying to navigate different ways to get what you need.
Yeah,
Yes.
we call that a ghostwriter. Good job. Yeah. Well, thank you for everything you have done for the health centers. And I see Jane in the background as our Health and Human Services Director. Jane, do you want to say anything?
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I think I would just like to also share our gratitude. We were just really thrilled and excited that you thought of us. Because I think it is really important for us to be in the schools and to deliver home care. And so we appreciate that you appreciate us and that you have demonstrated it in this great way. So thank you.
yes, of
Yeah.
course.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
And I just
Yeah.
have a request of you, Madam Chair. Would you go stand with them and then you guys all look at me so I can take a photo and
Oh,
I'll
why
email
don't
it
you
to.
why don't you get in the photo
All
too?
right. Yeah, you want to take it? From here, just from.
Jan Geneva done. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, just from here. We'll
Okay.
we'll just stand with-
Good job.
Okay, on three. 1, 2, 3. Lovely photograph.
Okay, let's do a fun one. Let's do like the arm.
Okay.
Okay, everybody say Schwarzenegger. I don't know.
Arnold.
There we go. Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
cool.
Lily, I'll email that to you. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
And I'll send that to you as well.
Chair, they had a PowerPoint. If we could get that for the record, that would be great.
I saw it in the inbox
Did you?
right before this meeting
Okay, okay.
started, so, yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a good day.
and now we're gonna go back to decision action.
Okay.
I messed up. I thought those two items were on consent, but I guess they weren't. So we're gonna go back to decision action.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah, for me, I thought they were still on execution of documents, so I messed up on that. Anyway, so now we're first gonna do the ARPA funds regarding portable road signs, which like I said, I thought they were given consent.
Sounds good.
Good morning.
Good
Roy,
Sorry
come in.
about that, Roy.
Jim says, you want to come up? It's like, what for?
Yeah,
He wants to hide in the back of the room. Tim Johnson, County Administrator. The purpose of this presentation is the allocation of an amendment for the local fiscal recovery fund of the American Rescue Plan Act for the acquisition and shipping of 2 portable road signs that we would use in the context of what we were confronted with under the pandemic and other public health issues related to communication such as testing, vaccination, remember to wear your mask, and a host of other opportunities. It was a year ago, February. I hadn't been hired here yet. Came here to visit with you. And a tsunami event had occurred. I had met with a chair later that afternoon after the event had happened. And it was quickly identified that this county is in need of being able to tell its tourists as well as its residents issues that may impact our county. And this was the topic of conversation that afternoon from the chair. So a year later, here we are full circle using the local fiscal recovery fund as it is identified under the authority issued by the federal government and the U.S. Treasury. You have the specs attached to this. So you get an idea. Roy can discuss that at length, but these are pretty good size signs that can be located across the county. Additionally, it still leaves us with approximately $3.7 million in residual of the almost 9.4 million in federal government funding from the local fiscal recovery fund that we received through the American Rescue Plan Act. Roy, anything you'd like to add on these signs?
No, other than because of what we plan to use them for, it would actually be nice to purchase probably at least 2 more. You know,
I was thinking that. 'Cause
There are
we have a-
more?
We have a long county.
we do have a very long county. We now have 2. My assumption is that they will most likely be located probably at our road department shop here in Newport. But for the north end and the south end, it would also be nice to have one located at either end. We do have road department buildings in both ends of the county, and it doesn't have to be associated with the road department, but somewhere where they're basically readily available, because like Administrator Johnson was talking about, when you get these tsunami warnings, you only have a short matter of time. You know, when they're distant tsunamis, yes, you have a few hours or, but even still, it takes time to get these things out. And the idea that, okay, we're going to notify 50% of the population, but not 100% of the population. So when we first started talking about this, I got some quotes on what we were looking for. We were kind of looking for an avenue for funding these. It didn't really go anywhere. I was made basically an offer I couldn't refuse on these 2. We jumped on it, but I would definitely want to proceed to pursue at least 2 more. And still, I may take another year for that to happen, but still, I think it's a path we want to take on these.
I agree. I mean, I love the 2 that we got, especially at a kind of a bargain price. I would suggest that maybe we approve the ones we already took possession of. So we
Yes.
can pay the vendor today, but then maybe we can come back on the next agenda and just approve money ahead of time for an additional 2 more. And then again, you have to kind of wait to find them, but then we already have
You
that
just need-
approval.
You would just need cost.
Right, and I was going to say I'll do
Yeah.
what I can on getting
Okay,
a quote on the exact same ones that,
Yeah.
because when you don't want to mix and match, because you're trained
On
to
that
put a
one.
message on one,
Yeah.
and you don't want it to be a different process on the
Yeah.
other 2,
yeah, I
because
agree.
that gets kind of confusing. So
Okay.
I will do what I
Get a
can
quote
to
and
get those
then
numbers.
we can maybe approve these today and then come back at our next meeting to approve 2 additional ones. Does that sound okay, Commissioner Miller?
Yeah, it sounds great. And they're remote access, aren't they?
They are,
That's
yeah,
cool.
which sounds dangerous to me.
Yeah, I mean,
But yes,
especially with cybersecurity.
yeah, the supplier of these says, oh yeah, you can get an app on your phone. And he said, as long as you got cell service, you can program them and instantly.
Wow.
Being old school, I'm thinking, oh, that might not be a good idea. But anyway, I'm sure it's a
So I
secure
want
system.
that app. I want to
Yeah.
program those things.
Sorry, no
Okay.
tsunami on this one. Okay? Like, whoops.
Happy birthday, Casey. Yeah.
Or other things, right?
Yeah. All right,
Cool.
so let's go ahead, even though we usually wait 2 weeks again, because we already did take possession of these, I would say we go ahead and approve. So I will make a motion for use of ARPA funds as presented today for the 2 portable road signs.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And then in our next meeting, 2 weeks from now, let's bring this back for additional allocation of money. Yeah, consideration. Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
And then
Thank
don't
you.
go anywhere, Roy, because the
Oh,
next
yeah.
up is Public Works bid 8089 Cougar Creek AOP.
Oh, he's got
Okay.
a partner in crime here.
Welcome. If you could introduce yourself for the record, please.
Andrew Blair, County Engineer.
Good morning.
Morning.
Take her away.
So on the agenda, we have a recommendation to award to Halsey Quarries doing business as AQ Construction. I'm recommending this award because I found no issues with their bid, and the contractor, George Foster, has reaffirmed his bid repeatedly. And also have noted the contractor's means and methods being most competitive and most efficient. We had anticipated a bypass temporary bridge, which is no longer needed. And that's to the benefit of the public because there'll be no costs associated with that temporary structure nor design for it. And because they are locally owned and have those aggregate materials on hand in particular, they can pass the wholesale cost on, which is certainly favorable for them and the public. And we've come to understand also that we can have up to 700 cubic yards of temporary fills by the USFS programmatic permitting that is being undertaken right now. So that is, I would say, good news insofar that the low bid is concerned. I think it was $368,617.30. And as I said in the recommendation to award memo that's accompanied as an attachment, that basically, I did say it's an extreme irregularities in pricing insofar as the bid tabulations are concerned between the bidders, but there were only 2. One of which was not from this area, the coastal area, and didn't really have the knowledge to do the job in a way that we felt was most efficient. So that really precluded their bid. And there's a couple of bid items that are exceedingly overpriced, I think, based on our evaluation of the bids. So all that said, that's the recommendation to award to Halsey Quarries doing business as AQ Construction. And yeah, we anticipate getting on with that, with pre-construction submittals and the rest with a notice to proceed for construction on-site work July 3rd. Which should be the first Monday of July, I believe.
I have a question. I'm kind of losing track of all the culvert projects
Mhm.
happening right now. Roy, is this the ARPA project? Okay. For some reason, I thought that
Yeah,
one was
it's
Bear
Cougar
Creek.
Creek
Okay.
located on Buck Creek County Road
Buck
in
Creek,
the Five
that's what-
Rivers
okay.
drainage. And it is our one big one that
It's the
we've
big
been
one.
working
Okay.
on for quite some time.
I think in my head, I have it as Bug Creek. So when I heard Cougar Creek, I was
Well,
like,
it's,
is
yeah,
this
it's
another?
Buck Creek,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
Buck Creek Road that parallels Buck Creek. But
Okay.
Cougar Creek is a tributary of Buck Creek and it crosses underneath Buck Creek.
Got
Road.
it.
So,
Okay.
yeah, for a while there, I
Thanks.
had a hard time.
So this
keeping
is
that straight.
this is the big one. Yeah.
This is the
Okay.
big one.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to straighten out. I don't have any question.
Nor do I, and I guess
Okay.
procedurally, can we approve or do we need to bring this back? Yeah.
That's exactly the question I had is because we are on a first and third meeting schedule. Is that messing up your timeline? Do we need to approve today? Can we
The
wait 2
sooner the
weeks?
better.
Okay.
If you would decide that you really would rather wait, then it is what it is, but
Okay.
you know, time is of the essence.
I'm okay.
Summer is around the corner, right?
Yeah, it
So-
is. Doesn't look like it, but it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kristen just nodded that we can go ahead and approve today. So as long as you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, so I would make a motion that we award bid 8089 to Alcy Corey's DBA AQ Construction. Is that
Mhm.
sufficient?
Yep. All right. I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye,
Aye. All right.
thank you
Great.
for your
Thank
work.
you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, now we're moving back to discussion and information. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Down to regional health assessment key themes, presented by our Director of Public Health. Anything?
And Madeline.
And Madeline.
Okay.
Hi, welcome.
Good
Please introduce
morning.
yourself for the record.
Oh, there you go. I have this item.
Oh, very good.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Florence Portal, Public Health Director.
Hello.
Hi, Madeline Heiner. I'm the Lincoln County Public Health Accreditation Coordinator.
So we're here today, mostly Madeline is going to do the presentation to present to you the key findings of the regional health assessment that was conducted in 2022 and got published a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
What is really exciting about this work is that we're continuing on our partnership with the Benton Linn Lincoln County region.
Mhm.
So, and we added a few partners to the table. We have our CCO, the Samaritan Health System, United Ways, and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. The goal of this partnership is to look at the health of our region and from those themes that have been identified, have community conversations with you, and identify regional priorities that, as the many systems that are partnering in this endeavor, we are hoping that we will be able to impact better the priorities that we will decide to focus on. So this is exciting. And we have about, would 20 minutes be okay for this presentation or is it too long?
Well, I would just,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, make it as concise as you can. but-
Yeah, so I have a lot of slides. I'm gonna
Yeah.
skip through some because it is a longer presentation. But you know, please tell me to wrap it up if you need me
Okay,
to.
yeah, just go for it.
All right, so this looks at the community health improvement planning process. I will just go over it very quickly. The first step of the process is the gathering of information. And this happens through that regional health assessment that we mentioned was finalized in the last couple of weeks. So we gathered a bunch of data for that. We are now in the identification of priorities step. So basically, we want to get down to 3 priorities that we're focusing on for our community health improvement plan. That plan will be a regional plan. From there,
Oh, no, sorry, I just bumped it. No, go
Okay,
ahead.
fine.
Yeah.
From there, we'll develop some work groups. That's where the actual work around the priority areas will occur. And then we will finally publish and implement our community health improvement plan. So we use the word equity, and during the work that the Partnership for Community Health has done, we've really wanted to focus on equity. And so to get everyone on the same page, we have this wonderful graphic by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. You've maybe seen a similar iteration. I really like this one. So it defines equity by comparing it to equality. The top image is equality. Everyone is given the same thing. You'll see here, everyone's given the same bike, but that bike only fits the third person. We can compare that with equity, in which everyone is given what they need to be successful. And so here you'll see everyone is given a different size or type of bike. And so with this work, we recognize that not everyone has the same opportunity to achieve health. And we want to ensure that everyone is given that opportunity. So the major portion of this presentation is looking at the key themes that emerged from the regional health assessment. And so what are key themes? These key themes were the top health concerns that emerged in the region. It's the disparities, challenges, or opportunities that emerged through an analysis of community voices, and I'll describe what that looked like, as well as health data that is included in that giant over 100-page regional health assessment report. So here we're just kind of giving you the high-level pieces. So we have 7 key themes now, and we really want to get that down to 3, and those will become the priority areas that we use in that regional community health improvement plan. But we need help from our community to determine what those key themes will be. We don't just want to make the decision by ourselves. We really do want that community input. I'm going to go over this really quickly. This is what informed the key themes. We had secondary data, so data that other people collected and we went out and gathered. That makes up the bulk of the regional health assessment. But we also gathered some primary data. So we actually conducted key informant interviews. We distributed a community health survey, and we also conducted some focus groups as a region. And that was so that we could get those community perspectives and voices included. So all 4 of these data sources then came together. From there, we came up with these key themes, which I will be sharing in the upcoming slides. Here's the list of 7 key themes. On the top, you can see these are the 4 sources of data. If there's a check mark, that just shows that that key theme showed up in that data source. But in the upcoming slides, I'm going to go into depth on those key themes. To start, this is a presentation we're giving to the community, so we want to get everyone on the same page. As mentioned, this is a regional effort, so it's partnership between Lincoln County, Benton County, and Lynn County. Lynn County is the largest in terms of population and land size. Benton County is the most urban of the 3 counties and has that middle-sized population. And then Lincoln County, we are a coastal community. We have the smallest population of the region. Heading into our first key theme, these are in alphabetical order, so no prioritization has happened yet. The first key theme is access to affordable housing and homelessness. I'm going to be sharing some data surrounding these key themes, but there is a lot more information in that regional health assessment report, which is available on our website. So what this slide looks at is our homeless students. Here, homeless is defined as individuals who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. And what we can see is that there was a higher percent of students that were homeless in Lincoln County than in Oregon in the year 2019 through 2020. In Benton County, 3% of students were homeless during this time. In Lincoln County, 14% of students, and in Lynn County, 5% of students. This continues with that same key theme. What this looks at is housing burden. Housing burden is defined as paying more than 30% of household income on rent, insurance, and utilities if you're a renter. And it's paying more than 30% of household income on mortgage, insurance, and utilities if you own your home. And so this is regional data. Half of rented households in our region were experiencing housing burden in 2020. And a quarter of owned households in our region were experiencing housing burden in 2020. And when we break apart Lincoln County from this data, we see that Lincoln County does have the highest rate of owned housing burden.
Where are we on the rented?
We are below Benton County, but above Lynn.
Thanks.
Our next key theme is access to quality care. I have two graphs here. The one on the left is primary care providers per 10,000 individuals. What you can see is that Lincoln County had lower rates of primary care providers than Oregon in 2020. On the right, this is dentists per 10,000 individuals. Lincoln County also had lower rates of dentists than Oregon in 2020. Continuing with access to quality care, there are 14 areas in our region that had fewer than 5 mental health care providers per 10,000 people in 2021. Those 14 areas are indicated on this map. In Lincoln County, you can see that that is Siletz, Toledo, Walport, and Yachats.
So it means that larger populations like Newport and Lincoln City had enough providers by this metric.
I wouldn't say enough. This is
I
a
wouldn't
pretty,
say that.
yeah,
That's what
this
I was
is a
thinking.
pretty low bar.
Okay.
This is a conversation we've actually had with many community members. They'll say, well, Newport's not in here, but I've found that it's very difficult. 5 mental health care providers is certainly not enough. So yeah, our bar is set pretty low for this data.
That doesn't mean they have openings.
Yes,
either.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Continuing with access to quality care, this shows the percent of our population with health insurance. You can see that over 90% of our region's residents did have health insurance in 2021. Having health insurance doesn't necessarily mean that you can access healthcare. So I just want to put that out there. The other thing to note is that this does vary by race ethnicity. So when we look at our region, our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander population had the highest rates of health insurance coverage during this year. The lowest rates of health insurance coverage did vary by county, but in Lincoln County, it was our Hispanic and Latino ethnicity that had the lowest rates of health insurance. Our next key theme is equity, diversity, and inclusion. Wealth is one of the strongest predictors of health, meaning that those with more financial resources tend to be healthier. And so this is a really important piece of that story. This shows the percentage of individuals in our region within each race and ethnicity category living in poverty. So I'll start with the top left. Of those in our region who identify as American Indian and Alaska Native, 20% were living in poverty during this time. We can then compare that to the bottom right, in which of those in our region who identify as white, 14% were living in poverty. And so when we look at the full picture, with the exception of our Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander population, people of color in our region are more likely to live in poverty.
Could I ask a question on that, just for clarification? Is this the 3-county area that you're referring to?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Our next key theme here is food insecurity and access. 1 in 5 individuals in Lincoln County used SNAP benefits or food stamps. And this was the same as in in Lynn County and Oregon in 2020. What this shows is how close someone lives to a grocery store. So in Lincoln County, 4 out of 10 individuals lived within a half mile of a grocery store in 2019. Access to a grocery store, living closer to a grocery store increases access. There are a lot of factors here. Certainly transportation makes a difference.
Yeah, it was interesting in a community conversation. We actually had somebody who said, well, but I choose to live away from a grocery store, but not everybody does.
Yeah.
Right. And that kind of spoke of maybe the privilege that some of us have to be able to take a car and get
Oh, yeah.
to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question, you know, how this particular data question kind of factors in rural living, because, you know, there's a lot of people that do choose to live away from town, but there's also people that kind of have their own food systems.
Yeah.
You know, together, you know, they have their own garden, they hunt deer, they do that type of food system. And so that doesn't necessarily put them out of access to food. They kind of got their own thing going on.
Absolutely.
That's kind of part of rural life, I think, for a lot of people.
Mhm.
The next key theme is healthy youth and families. On the left, this shows about 1 out of every 6 pregnant people used tobacco in Lincoln County in 2021. We can compare that with Benton County on the right, in which about 1 out of every 10 pregnant people used tobacco in 2021. Continuing with healthy youth and families, this graph shows teen pregnancy rates per 1,000. Lincoln County had higher teen pregnancy rates than Oregon during years 2018 through 2020. One thing to note here, we do define teen pregnancy as 15 to 19 years old here. This graph shows child abuse rates per 1,000 children. Lincoln County had higher rates of child abuse than Oregon in years 2019 through 2021.
What data set is that? Is that from calls made on a child abuse hotline? Is that investigations? Is that founded cases? What?
This is founded cases.
Founded
Yes.
cases.
Yeah, it's
Thank
from
you.
the child welfare
Okay.
data book.
Yep.
The next key theme is mental health. This graph shows suicide rates per 100,000 people. Lincoln County had a higher suicide rate than Lynn and Benton counties during the years 2018 through 2020. And this looks at mental health among our youth specifically. One thing I want to point out is that we know this is a little bit of an older data set. So we're looking at 2019 here. So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we know that the COVID-19 pandemic had a profound effect on the mental health of our youth. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. But on the left, 1/3 of 8th graders in Lincoln County reported being bullied. And this was higher than in Oregon in 2019. On the right, this is regional data. 2 out of 5 11th graders in our region felt sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks in 2019.
School surveys on that.
Yep. And our final key theme is substance use and misuse. Again, this data is a little outdated. This shows drug overdose death rate per 100,000. And Lincoln County had the highest drug overdose death rate in our region in 2019.
And that's across all age groups.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I don't know if we want to see.
So part of this work, again, is trying to get community input on prioritization. And so we do have a survey set up. This is a regional survey where we're asking just a few questions, including what 3 key health themes would you like to see prioritized? So we do have that on the screen. If anyone wants to take out their phone and take the survey, that would be great. Anyone who lives, works, plays, spends time in Lincoln, Benton, or Lynn counties.
You got some takers.
I know,
You
you saw
couldn't see
that.
it. Yeah.
That's great. Yes, please do take the survey. If you have family, friends, we would love you to share this. We're trying to get as much community input as we possibly can. And then just to give you a very brief what's next. So right now we're talking with community members to share the regional health assessment findings and to get feedback on those priorities. Our next step in June through July, the regional team will look at that prioritization data and share findings. In August through September, this is really the exciting part. We'll start to get some work groups together to really determine what actions we are actually going to take to work towards making our community healthier in those priority areas that are chosen. December, we will publish the Regional Community Health Improvement Plan. And 2024 and on, we will implement that Community Health Improvement Plan. And we need your help. So one of the ways, if you are interested in getting involved in this work, we have a local CHIP work group. We will also have a regional work group. So basically what we're thinking is that local work group will feed up into the regional work group. But we have a great group of really engaged partners in that local CHIP group. If you want to be involved in that work, please let us know. I think I have my contact here. They meet on a quarterly basis right now, and it's a 2-hour meeting. And if you'd like to be involved, please, we'd love your support. We want to get community members involved. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Oh, yes. Madam Chair, thank you so much for this. And I see your outreach. I know you're looking for the data. I feel like this is what we're all about, right? I mean, we're about really measuring our community and finding out what's going on. There's tremendous need. The accreditation process for our viewers, is this one of several accreditation processes related to, like, does the health center have a different accreditation? Can you talk about that? Just the difference between them?
Yeah. So there is one public health accreditation process nationally. It's the Public Health Accreditation Board, or FAB. So basically, Lincoln County Public Health went through that accreditation process back in 2018. And then every 5 years, we have to go through what's called reaccreditation to maintain that status as an accredited public health department. So we are coming up on that due date. And so we have to meet, like 114 requirements, one of which it's a lot of work. And so one of those requirements actually is this community health assessment and community health improvement plan. So it kind of fits into my work.
Well, I appreciate that, because I do think it's important the community understands that, we've got a rhyme and a reason to how we approach the care of our community. Is there anything about, and Madeline, how long have you been working on accreditation now?
Oh gosh, about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything you could see in a future iteration that might be included that's not, or is there anything that is redundant? I mean, I don't see any redundancy, but what do you think from your experience so far?
So specifically about what I just shared with the regional health assessment and this regional CHIP work, something that's really exciting, as Florence mentioned, is that we're taking this regional approach. And we have all of these amazing partners, including our healthcare system, our coordinated care organizations. And so what I'm really excited about is, through these community conversations, one thing we've been doing is creating a data wish list. So some of our data you can see is a little outdated. By taking this regional approach, I'm hoping that future iterations, we're just going to get better and better. Yeah. The partnership is planning to continue to work together. And so hopefully in the future, we're going to hopefully be able to pull in more Samaritan data, IHN data. And so being able to really do a more comprehensive, in-depth and up-to-date assessment because of these partnerships that we're building right now. And Florence, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that was great. The other piece is making sure in the assessment process that we talk to all of the groups and partners that are already involved in so much work. Like, for example, on the housing front, I know that when we presented the data to some of our CHIP community partners, they were just like, well, there's data here and here that we didn't know about. So really, like, compiling that list so that we can go back and have, more recent and also data that is not necessarily accessible in like public health databases, but that I think would be nourishing of the public health data that we have access to.
Yeah, and we're going to do this process it sounds like every 3 years. So it's a very iterative process. In 3 years, we'll start the assessment process over again with our partners. So this is the first time we've done this as a region in this way with these partners. And so we're going to continue to build upon this work.
Madam Chair, just a couple more questions. The synergy of these issues, I mean, can you make any comments about those? I mean, it's kind of like you might fix one a little here, but they all kind of feed into the challenges we face.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, I think there are 2 points that I kind of want to make. One is what seemed to raise to the surface at the region level is really issues that pertains to the social determinants of health, either like, the housing difficulties that people are experiencing, regardless of the fact that they're renting or owning and also the availability of houses, as you know very well.
Yeah.
Problem. I think one piece that also is raising up and has been there for a long time, and I think Jane could talk to this way better than I will, but there is definitely an issue in Oregon, throughout the state around mental health. And even though the data that we were able to present is pre-pandemic, I'm kind of looking forward to see what is going to be shown in a few years through the 2020, 21, 22 data.
I don't know that I'm looking forward to that data, but
I know it's just, we know that the pandemic has had really profound effects on mental health, both for adults and youngsters and sometimes children. I mean, it's in 2019, having a kiddo that says I've been spending 2 weeks and there was not one day that I wasn't sad is actually a depression diagnosis, right? And so, and then when you link this to the lack of mental health providers that has so many causes, right? Then you have a very big crisis that is not being handled. And so I know that we're trying to prevent, further mental health issues, and also like talk to people about, kind of like destigmatizing, mental health. There is still a long ways to go. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I just want to say to our community too, I mean, the stress is real. You've got the data that shows that. It's hard for many. And I appreciate your work as well. I mean, I know it's a lot to do. And the last question, Madam Chair, is just how will this, we really want people to participate, right? Because this may result in funding for us, for the community, right?
So, I also wanted to say, so right now it was just a really like quick picture snapshot of the key themes, but the entirety of the report is on our Lincoln County website. So if people are interested to kind of dig in and nerd out a little bit on public health data, we're inviting them to do so. And then, I mean, the more the community involves themselves in the prioritization process and then the improvement strategies that are gonna come up, the better will be.
Yeah, and I'd say last month we held some community conversations where we shared this data actually at our local our local libraries. We have till the end of May to elicit community input. So we don't have any more of these community conversations scheduled. However, if there's interest, we would be more than happy to schedule some more. Any organizations who maybe have, or coalitions who have regularly scheduled meeting time and want us to come present, we are more than happy to come do that. Again, we have the survey, which is available on our website as well. You can take that survey without seeing the presentation. So any help with sharing that, we certainly invite. But we're at your disposal. If you want us to come speak to anyone, we would be more than happy to do so next.
Appreciate it.
Till then.
Go public health.
Yeah.
Okay,
so-
thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done.
Okay, I was still thinking, so that's good. The few questions I had, one of which was kind of dovetailing off of what Commissioner Miller said. So as we go through this process of kind of prioritizing our top three, what does that do in terms of funding? I mean, this is kind of some like heavy stuff. So what is going through this process and getting accredited and prioritizing our three issues? How does that help us deal with those three issues? Yeah.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Yeah.
Accreditation. So accreditation is a way for a public health department to measure its professionalism and quality of services against a national set of standards and measures. It is definitely a very demanding process. And I know in my experience in the previous county I worked in, it took us 5 years to get to be ready, to be accredited. And I think it really helps a health department really think about the public health practice and how to best, kind of like operationalize it. So that's one. It has a promise that when you get accredited, you are almost like exuding a certain standard of excellence. That gives the health department an edge, if you may, when it applies for funding in the future.
And sorry, just one thing to clarify too, this is an optional process. So basically, not every public health department is accredited, but we've chosen to
Step it up.
step it up. Yeah.
And I think, the reaccreditation process is also helping us. We're quite a new team. There was some movement. We went through the pandemic, so it's really good to kind of like reset ourselves. And the second part of the question.
Oh,
funding.
funding. Yeah.
How
does this help us deal with those three prioritized issues?
So I think the way we are envisioning this work is one, there is power and possible impact in partnership, right? Like at least my vision of public health as demonstrated through the pandemic is that the public health department is one actor of the public health system, not the public health system, right? Yeah. So really sustaining and growing those partnerships, both at the local and regional level, are very important. Building on all those coalitions that Madeline was talking about, we know there is a lot of work going on around housing already. Obviously, if housing raised to the top, we will go to the people who actually have been working on housing and ask them, hopefully to be a part of this work. So the idea is to build on what already has traction, on what already has funding, because it can be very detrimental, right, to have priorities and get really excited about them, but then realize that there is zero interest, zero traction, zero money,
zero
right?
capacity.
Zero capacity. And, I've experienced this in the past where, one of the priority, because the secondary data was saying tobacco is such an important, which it is, right? But then we did a community readiness assessment and come to realize that there were more important issues for the community and the partners than tobacco. And so then there is zero buy-in, and you can have it as a priority. But so it has to be, I think, really subtle, and we have to be listening and building on what's what's there. And also I think the other piece for us is really trying to garner the fact that, you know, we are, you know, we're pretty lucky that we share a health system and we share a coordinated care organization and we share United Way, you know, across the region. And so there is an opportunity for us to be, if we're very thoughtful as to what strategies we decide to move forward, like to make an impact on some of those issues. So
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And at a minimum, I would just say, kind of putting on my grant writing head. I'm always looking for data, and there's a lot of data in this that I, you know, like the McKinney vendor from the school district I already have and stuff, but there's just some great data that I think a lot of our partners can use as they seek external funding for data sets I haven't seen before. So
that was another goal of
Yeah.
this work. is
Yeah.
that so that we share the same document and that it's
Yeah.
also available to all of us. Right?
The impact.
Yeah, because a lot of times in writing those funding asks, you know, you have to make your case, you know, and the case a lot of times is not so much the lived experience, it's the data. So thank you for that. Kind of having all of that in one place is really helpful. So anything else from you, Commissioner? Miller?
No, thanks for the work and
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you.
the information, and we will amplify.
Yes.
Thank
and I will
you.
go take the survey QR which I printed too. So.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the update.
Okay, moving down our discussion information. I'm gonna jump a little bit. Let's deal with the emergency preparedness matching grant program. I think that's relatively short.
Yeah.
I think the Lincoln City Urban Renewal is not relatively short, so. Let's start with the emergency preparedness matching grant program.
Okay.
Commissioners, Tim Johnson, County Administrator. Purpose of this presentation is to approve the submitted applications for the county preparedness matching grant program for this year. There, we had set aside in excess of $34,000 for this to be used for the annual allocation. Within the context of this, $29,240 were applied for. We have a two-part process here, so I'm going to stay with the just for a moment, the matching grant. Within the context of that, and for the purposes of the record, we have the City of Walport, City of Toledo Fire Department, Lincoln County School District, cities of Depot Bay, Newport, Newport Rural Fire Protection, Seal Rock Fire Protection, City of Yachats, North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District, Siletz Valley Rural Fire Protection, Yachats Rural Fire Protection, and OSU, and particularly their Hatfield Marine Science Center. So those are the applications. We have the ability to be able to make those grant awards today, should you decide to approve that. The second element of today's program is that the remaining $6,760 be used to begin something that we've never done before, and that is an annual allocation for county preparedness. If something should happen in this building, for example, or anywhere on one of our buildings or campus, we don't have the supplies necessarily to address our own issues. So with that, it's a two-pronged process, is then to approve the grant submitted, and then also the creation of, for the first time in our history, in this fiscal year budget, a county preparedness fund of $6,760. With that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Administrator Johnson. I will say that the preparedness fund was my idea, so I'll take credit for it, good or bad. And I think, as you said, there's kind of two reasons to do this. One is, well, we fund a lot of emergency supply caches for other cities and ports and stuff. We actually don't have one. So that's something we could, right?
Very good idea.
Right. And then the second issue is, having gone through the Echo Mountain fire, there was a need for immediate cash on certain things. So the idea is that as we create this fund, even though it's a modest amount for this year, we can keep growing that. So when we do have another major disaster, we would have a pot of money to immediately tap into. That's already been budgeted, that we can tap into for things like immediate response, or extra social workers, or getting, partners on board, or disaster recovery people, or whatever it is we need to do. Because kind of access to that capital is very difficult. Additionally, in kind of the emergency management space, while there is funding through FEMA to respond to emergencies and build things back, there's always a cost match. And coming up with that non-federal cost match for the FEMA dollars can be very difficult. I feel like with our Echo Mountain fire, it was kind of like finding pennies in the couch cushion to find those cost matches, and we did. But with time, having this fund there to where that's something over time we may not need to worry about, we already have that, would be helpful. And in the immediate future, we can start looking at our own emergency preparedness as a county and doing some stuff
Good idea.
like these cities are doing. So as far as the amounts and what people are asking for, I don't have any questions or issues. I'm fine with how it's been presented. I know that this is a very popular program. I think we're just maybe like a couple of weeks late on getting this out this year. And man, did we have a ton of emails from all of our city and fire districts and stuff saying, where's that grant? Where's that grant? We look forward to that. So it is something I think the community really does take advantage of, and I'm fine proceeding ahead. And questions, Commissioner Miller?
No, I don't think so. Thanks. The program just looks really tight. Everything seems well documented. Looks great.
So do we need to bring this back at our next meeting for decision action?
Make a motion on that.
Okay, question about that.
Okay.
Council Yule, since we're both creating this immediate emergency response fund and approving the grants, is that two different motions? Okay. I'll take a stab at one and you can take a stab at the second one, Commissioner Miller. So I'll make a motion that we start the start the emergency, immediate emergency response fund with $6,760 left over from this year's grant, emergency management grants.
Okay. I second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Okay. And then I would move we approve the submitted applications of $29,240 in support of the Emergency Preparedness Matching Grant Program for 22-23. Am I right on that? Or 23-24?
22.
Okay, there we go.
I will
Thank you. Sorry.
It's okay. I will second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Administrator
We'll
Johnson.
get there. Now we're going to move on to Lincoln City Urban Renewal District. Allison Robertson, I think is presenting virtually.
Okay.
And I also wanted to point out, we do have a Lincoln City City Council member. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Chair Jacobson, and hello, Commissioner Miller. I'm just going to get the PowerPoint going here.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Oops, let's see.
We need to give you screen share, you think, or?
Nope, I think we're all set. And are you able to see that?
No.
Okay, let's try one more time. Oh, it does say host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. If you need any help, Geneva, let me know. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can remember how to do this. Okay. Stand by, Allison. So we're gonna go and I think right now what we'll do is we'll just make you the host, okay, Allison?
Okay.
Let's see if that works.
Okay, great. I think that is going to work.
Yep.
All right, how's that on your end?
It's good.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you for having us here. Along with me on the Zoom screen is Elaine Howard with Elaine Howard Consulting, and she's been with us before on urban renewal related activities and is here with us for this one. So what we'd like to do is run through the PowerPoint, and I will try to be brief, and then we can hopefully have enough time for discussion and any questions that you may have. So the goals today, I'll cover a brief background and update, review some public input to date, present boundary options for the proposed urban renewal area, review financials at a very broad level, confirm the boundary is what we're hoping to achieve with you today if possible, go over some next steps, and then answer any questions that you have. So
Awesome.
Brief back, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say awesome. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So brief background, and there is some more information that we provided in a memo. But basically, we started talking about the use of urban renewal in Lincoln City in 2017. We discussed with City Council about what some possible areas are, and we did 2 feasibility studies. And in 2019, after City Council reviewed those feasibility studies, they directed staff to create 2 new urban renewal plans. And about a year later, we were able to adopt the Rhodes End and Villages at Cascade Head Urban Renewal Plan, which is now in its 3rd or 4th year. I guess it's the end of the 3rd year of TIF collection. In 2022, we went back and just checked in with council to make sure that they wanted to move forward with the NELSCOT plan. And they said, yes, they do. And they would like to create the NELSCOT Plan Advisory Committee, which is 12 members. And in December of last year is when that advisory committee was fully seated. In February, we had our first advisory committee meeting. We went over the introduction and process, and County Administrator Tim Johnson is on that committee, and we greatly appreciate his time and participation in that. On February 15th, we had the second one, March 15th, the third one, and we've just been working our way through the various parts of the plan in order to get to a draft plan. Let's see, on April 5th, we had a discussion with the advisory committee about a modified boundary. And then we took that to the city council on April 10th. They confirmed that they wanted to move forward with the modified boundary. And then here we are today to provide the same information to you and then hear any questions or input that you may have. So just a brief overview, there are allowable caps per the ORS Chapter 457 that guide how urban renewal functions or TIF areas or tax increment financing. And Lincoln City is about 3830 acres. And so the cap of acreage that Lincoln City is allowed to have in urban renewal areas could be 1 or 2 or more. That is a 25% cap on the number of acres. And so the allowable acres is 957.5. We already have Rhodes End and Villages at Cascade Head area that I mentioned that came into effect in 2020, and that currently is 500 acres. So we now have allowable 457.5 acres for any urban renewal areas if they were to come into effect. Right now we have around 300 to 350 of acres proposed for the NELSCOT area, and we are also under the allowable assessed value. We had, as I mentioned, we've had advisory committee meetings. We also had an online survey and we had a community open house. We did a vote with dots exercise, which everybody loves to get up and kind of talk and think and put their dots where they feel the projects are of highest priority. And so you can see here is a summary of the online survey and the open house number 1. It was a total of 40 responses, and you can see pedestrian safety had the highest number of responses of importance of projects. And then the beach accesses are the lowest, which made me feel pretty good because those are the more recently improved projects from the old urban renewal area that sunsetted in 2021. So from all of that input that we got from the first open house, we had a boundary and we incorporated the feedback from that open house and came up with this boundary here that you see. And so what we added is to provide a north-south alternate route to Highway 101 that would improve emergency evacuation options and reduce congestion. So you can see in that upper right part of the orange shaded area, there's a little skinny road that goes from Lee Avenue. It goes east on 19th and then up Mast Avenue and over to Orr. That is a connection that doesn't exist right now and would allow people to do a neighborhood route to get around and then to the back of the Lincoln City Outlets Mall and also to East Devils Lake Road. So if people wanted to take something other than the highway, they could navigate their way through that back part of town if that were a project that were to go forward and the plan is adopted. We also, this area includes 44 acres in the urban growth boundary, which is the county's jurisdiction, as you know, and that it would be for housing. It includes 107 acres in the urban growth boundary for what we call employment area, where we would be targeting living wage jobs that are not tourism dependent. So this would be a way to diversify the economy that is obviously primarily tourism based and see if we can move the lever on some diversification for our local jobs. And then we would also, we increase the tax increment financing potential by adding some developed properties, already developed properties, and we removed some perimeter acreage from Spyglass Ridge open space, which has no assessed value. So we heard comments about, do we need all that acreage that's non-taxable, and can we use that in other parts for projects or to bring in greater revenue? So that is the boundary that we ended up with after the community open house number 1 and the online survey. Then we had some more input and we had more additions to the boundary and comments. And so we added some properties around the Bard Road area. And there is some opportunity for projects around Bard Road, not just on Bard Road. We added a small property in this green triangle right here. That is some open space property at Bard Road to possibly better align Bard Road and provide better access to the open spaces there. We also added this little rectangle here for a possible road connection to some future housing development. We added Southeast 31st area, which is here, which also could be a road that connects to these two properties that are in the city for housing development. And then we included the cinemas property down here at High School Drive. And that is because it is a project that is coming on board for redevelopment. It will be mixed use, and that property, because it's in process, would mean that there would be some early increment that could come into the urban renewal area to make projects possibly happening sooner. And then there were 3 additional properties in the urban growth boundary that requested removal. So mostly what I want to mention is at the second community open house, which we had on March 15th, we had a letter from it was basically one letter presented by a property owner in the urban growth boundary that was representing 14 property owners along 23rd Drive. And those property owners expressed an interest in not participating in the urban renewal area. And you can see on the map that these red shaded areas are the properties that are providing input that they would choose not to participate. And so we went ahead and removed them from the boundary, and that's what we believe is the right approach to the boundary. So when we got this letter from the 14 property owners, they did ask that we send the letter back out to the property owners, and we thought that was a good idea, except we really felt like we needed to ask all of the property owners in the urban growth boundary the same questions so that we had a better lay of the land, so to speak. So we sent the letter, we sent our own survey along with the letter from the 14 property owners to 24 of the property owners in the urban growth boundary. And we asked them 3 questions. We asked, do they support being in the proposed urban renewal area? Do they not support being in the proposed urban renewal area? And would they be interested in having a group meeting? So of those, we had, you can see here, we had 17 property owners say that they do not support being in the area. We had 2 say that they are supportive, and then we had 5 that did not respond. I can tell you that of the 17 that said they do not support, all 14 in that letter of 14 property owners are in the 17. So we did confirm that people, the people who were on the letter chose not to support, or we assumed if they were on that letter that they were not supportive.
Allison, I got a little lost here. So there were 17 property owners that said they did not want to be in, but then you were saying there was 14 properties in the letter. I guess I'm not understanding that.
Sure. So
the 17 and the 14.
Yeah. So when we went to the second open house, we got a letter that encapsulated 14 property owners. And so instead of just sending that letter to the 14 of them to confirm that we understood their input, we sent the same letter and this survey to 24. So 10 additional property owners for everyone who owned acreage in the urban growth boundary. So if they responded as a no, or they were on the letter originally that we received from them, we included them as a do not support.
Okay, thank you. I understand now.
And
Okay.
Madam Chair and Allison, are there themes to why people don't support? I mean, are there commonalities, or is it all over the place?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Commissioner. We did give open-ended questions about, or opportunities for feedback about why they were not supportive. And really, we want to make sure that we are providing the right information so that we can feel comfortable that they're making an informed decision about it. They are private properties, and we support those private property rights to participate or not participate. We did receive mostly comments rather than questions. And those were ranging anywhere from housing related comments to taxes, to projects, timeline. And then there were a couple comments about specific projects. So I do have that list of questions or comments, and I'm happy to run through it if you'd like. We do plan to respond to those comments and then send that back out to the property owners. And then we would post it on our project website online. But it sounds to me like, you know, some of it is information that we can provide. And some of it is, you know, like the timeline. They say there's no specific timelines for projects, but this is a proposed plan for the next possibly 30 years. And because the city operates on annual budget process, we can provide the list of projects that are sometimes specific and sometimes general, but we can't with certainty say exactly what year those projects are going to happen. So we don't want to get in a position where we're over promising and under delivering, but we want to, you know, be as specific as we can about delivering on those projects should the plan be adopted.
Okay, I'm gonna just kind of jump ahead here a little bit. So in the new boundary discussion, are those property owners out? Do you take them out?
Yes.
Updated boundary?
Yes.
So that's, I think I'm on, I don't know what slide I'm on, but kind of that yellow area is now
Yes.
not in the boundary. Yellow areas, I should say.
That's correct.
Okay.
And so I just want to, before I move to the other slide, I just want to, I want you to see that the acreage, the percent of the acreage in the urban growth boundary for those who do not support is about 1/3 of the acreage. And for the 2 people who do support, that's 44 acres, which is also about 1/3 of the acreage. And then for no response, we have a little more than 1/3, 40% of the acreage. So I just wanted you to, you know, there's a number of property owners and then there's a percentage of acreage that they each own. So with boundary number 2, and you're correct, Chair Jacobson, with the yellow area, boundary 2 modified captures changes from the previous boundary with the flexibility to include any willing property owners within the urban growth boundary. So the Nelscott Plan Advisory Committee that reviewed this information, they did recommend this boundary to the City Council. They were 8 in favor, 1 abstained, and that was the fire chief, and then 2 were absent. And the Lincoln City Council unanimously approved a motion to direct staff to continue to move forward with this boundary as well. And the boundary currently excludes 16 unwilling property owners. And I think that's actually supposed to be 17, I'm sorry. Totaling 50 acres of the total urban growth boundary acreage. And so we can still maintain the plan goals with the 55 acres of planned industrial or employment area, 44 acres of housing because that one property owner is wanting to be included. And then we can still achieve alternate transportation routes. So what we are, actually, let me quickly go over some financials. When we're talking about boundary 1, which was long ago and kind of not relevant anymore, and boundary 2 versus boundary 2 modified, you can see for the maximum indebtedness from boundary 2 is 129 million. Boundary 2 modified is 131 million. And the capacity in 2023 dollars to achieve projects would be for boundary 2, 68,000,007 and 69,000,006. There's not a significant difference in the financial component of the proposed plan, whether those properties are excluded or included. So that's the one thing we wanted to relay. And then again, this shows, for example, and this is boundary 1 to boundary 2, but you get the idea, it would be close to boundary 2. This shows the numbers for all properties that have self-selected to be removed. Total expenditure is about 68 million for projects. So going back to the boundary, what we are, and we can't get to an accurate financial assessment until we know what the boundary is. So that's why we're having this meeting, is to make sure that the decision makers who have jurisdiction over the boundary, which is the county and the city, are comfortable with the idea of moving ahead and drafting a plan with this particular boundary, which would basically be the orange shaded area and remove the yellow shaded area of those who said they do not want to be included unless they tell us they change their mind, or, you know, it would basically just be as it is. So I'm happy to stop yammering, and then Elaine Howard again is here if you have any questions that I can't answer. I'm happy to hear any discussion or questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So those 5 property owners that had no response, how many kind of direct communications were attempted? Was that just the one letter that was sent?
I believe it was the second letter.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then I think you said you couldn't figure out the financial piece in totality until you have these boundaries kind of figured out. Because I guess, you know, my larger concern about this is not just with this urban renewal district, but just all of the urban renewal districts in the county in totality, as well as the SIP we have in Toledo and how that is affecting the county's overall budget. So is that information coming once you have the boundaries figured out?
Yes, absolutely. So this is kind of an interim stage of checking in on boundary and making sure that we have direction on what the boundary is desired to be, again, as proposed. Once we have that direction or confirmation, then we will be completing the draft plan, finishing the financials, and we will do what's called a confer and consult letter with all of the overlapping taxing districts, including the county. And so that will be your, you know, this is for sure the closest estimation that we have of the projected revenue over the duration of the proposed plan. And then we will be able to have communication about that if there are any other questions about the financial impacts. And so that conversation is coming, assuming that people want to move forward with it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller, questions?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you kind of brought it into perspective, Katie. Madam Chair, I mean, I do feel like I need to understand this whole phenomenon more. It seems to me like the objectives are good. These are things that will produce outcomes. You know, as was noted, main goals for more housing, transportation infrastructure and so forth. So, but you're right, it will be interesting to see after that confer and consult letter, the more specific impacts. So I'm overall in support of where this is going.
So in terms of kind of what you need from us right now, which is just really this boundary, I'm kind of under the inclination that we actually come back and see if there's any additional public comment that we may receive.
Okay.
And then come back and do decision action in this at our next meeting. Also,
Okay.
I don't know that you and I are necessarily in the same place. We might actually need to wait till Commissioner Hall is here. So that's kind of my, you know, recommendation as we come back and at our next meeting and do decision action with this, give the public time to comment to us on this and wait for Commissioner Hall as well.
And I see process next steps. Does that put you in any kind of difficulty, Allison, or does that sound?
No,
good?
not at all.
Okay, great. So our next meeting is, I don't have a calendar in front of me. What?
May 3rd.
Okay.
May 7th. Okay.
It says May 3rd.
Okay, May 3rd. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Okay, May 3rd. Yeah, I was like, I think we meet before June, but anyways, okay, so we will bring this back on May 3rd. Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for the
thank you.
thorough information. This is great.
Okay, moving down onto commissioner reports. Commissioner Miller, anything to report?
Well, I just want to give kudos to our team, Kathleen, Geneva, Tim, Kristen, everyone. We're in the middle of new website deployment and just trying to keep everything together. And I think we're getting there. So all I have to report is you'll have a new website pretty soon. It's going to be really exciting. And that is just all I have for you today.
Spoiler alert. Good
Uh-oh.
website coming. No, that's your spoiler
Okay.
alert. Yeah.
All right.
I don't have anything to report. So now we'll move on to public comment. Did we receive any smart sheet?
We did.
Oh, we did.
Oh,
Okay.
Just to be clear, that was a phone call I received it translated into.
Okay.
oh. Well, it was nice of you to do that.
I still can't see it.
The comment was that Mr. Doherty is against the proposed urban renewal.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, that was our only smart sheet. Do we have any online public comment? Anybody that wants to make an online public comment can raise your virtual hand.
So then I now have.
Oh, let me come.
We're coming, Linda. Hang on.
So Linda, you're gonna do this one. Oh, I know what it is. We need to reclaim
Host.
There's a little tiny button there for me. Reclaim the house, yes. Let me tell you something. It's gotten me before. Linda, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, Linda. Did you hear that? You should be able to unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted.
Okay, give us just a second here before you start your public comment. All right, Commissioner Miller is going to be the timer. You have 3 minutes. Hang on, he's getting his timer ready here. Yeah.
Got my timer. Okay.
Okay.
In June of 2014, the Blue Ribbon Fair Committee appointed in September of 2009, and Eco Northwest presented the Lincoln County Fairgrounds market and feasibility analysis to the commissioners. After participating in community meetings around the county to see if there was community support for a new multi-purpose facility. In October 2016, the Commons Vision Statement was adopted. In 2017, the county and fair board identified the county commons as a multi-use public facility for a range of activities throughout the year. In February 2019, a revised master plan for Lincoln County Commons was approved. That plan kept the Flora building, the livestock building, or rather it moved the livestock building, relocates and rebuilds the outdoor arena, builds a new multi-purpose building and stage, removes the rabbit barn storage shed, riding arena, floral building restrooms, the 4-H building and its restrooms, and proposes a new emergency service building transit center on the east side of Harney Street. Now, 3 years have passed and the board has moved away from those adopted plans. In October 2022, a proposal for a $238,750 grant was approved to replace all metal roofing and siding and insulation in the 5,000 square foot livestock building with completion before the end of the year. At the same time, the Board of Commissioners approved a request to formulate a work plan for redevelopment of the commons. When presented to the Board of Commissioners, audience participation was not permitted, and the plan had been redeveloped and would no longer be the master plan approved by the Lincoln County Fair Board and the Board of Commissioners in 2019. In addition to these changes, our Lincoln County Animal Shelter has temporary quarters at the old shelter location. I believe the Board of Commissioners will present information regarding a new proposal to build a new shelter in a location a considerable distance from our population centers. Personally, I think the shelter should be built across the street from its current location, staying on county commons ground. Shelter has been in the same location for 60 years, is convenient and accessible for the community, is in a pleasant area, easy to access with good roads, visibility, and it easily reached by public transportation.
Linda, 30 seconds.
Okay, the Lincoln County Animal Shelter cares for over 1,000 animals. If relocated, will our volunteers want to drive that far? There are over actually 100 volunteers, staff, and animal service deputies. Will they want to drive that far? One more page there. Am I just about done?
Yes.
As the livestock barn will not be relocated and will remain on the location planned for a soccer field, it seems a new commons layout could be created, making it a perfect time to include the animal shelter in that plan. It's my hope that the Board of Commissioners will reconvene the most recent County Commons Advisory Committee to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else online that would like to provide online public comment? Raise your virtual hand. Don't see anybody. Okay, do we have any in-person public comment? Okay. Please come up and provide your name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Mark from decided to drop in from Lincoln City Council, which also overlaps as the Lincoln City Urban Renewal Agency, and I'm chair. So I just thought I'd come by to lend some moral support to the presentation. Also wanted to thank Tim Johnson for his valuable contribution to our advisory committee. He helped us understand the impact on the county, especially combined with the other urban renewal areas. And I understand, at least in theory, how what a difficult challenge it is. So I just thought I would make a couple of points to underscore the significance of this project. Personally, the three elements that I'm most interested in is this project will open up areas for development that are not now accessible, which does a couple things. Gives us an opportunity to increase housing significantly. I think they're talking about potential for 1,000 units of single family or multi-unit dwellings. Also, very significantly, it gives us an opportunity to create a road that does not exist now on the east side of Highway 101, which literally would create a path that would let you get, if you're familiar, as far as from Faith Baptist Church at the north end of Devil's Lake, all the way to Sluts Highway without touching Highway 101, which would essentially create an evacuation route, besides allowing development along that path and housing. It would create an evacuation route that does not exist now. That would have been invaluable during the Echo Mountain fire. And then there's the development of, even without these properties from I'll call them recalcitrant property owners who just don't want to be involved. And by the way, they did not give us a reason for not wanting to be included. They just said, I don't want my taxes reallocated. And while we asked them to explain what their concern was, we never heard back. But there is plenty of industrial land available. And we really, in Lincoln City, see it as the only opportunity we have to invite other sorts of employers into town to diversify our economy away from tourism. And a third element that doesn't get mentioned a whole lot is this project will allow us to add a fourth water tank, which is much needed. And they're looking at a 6 million gallon reservoir, which would help alleviate concerns at the end of summer when our population triples or quadruples and the water flow turns into a dribble. And so we really need more water storage there.
30 seconds, Mark.
One element that I think doesn't get, and Tim can maybe correct me if I'm thinking about this incorrectly, but 40% of the funds that are going to be collected from tax increment financing is school district funds. And of course, the state reimburses the school district for those funds. So the school doesn't lose anything. But essentially what's happening is 40% of the project money for this is coming from other areas of the state. So in other words, we're actually drawing money from Multnomah County, all the big urban areas that would not come into the county otherwise. So I think that's leveraging that funds is significant. My time is up. That's probably, I think you understand the significance of the project. And that's kind of what I had to add.
Well, thank you for coming and making public comment
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Helpful.
Okay, anything else from staff or commissioners?
Nothing from me, Madam Chair.
It was a long one. Thanks for hanging in there with us, Rick, and others that were online. I will go ahead and adjourn. Our next meeting is Wednesday, May 3rd at 10 a.m. in this office, both online and in this room. Thank you.
Okay.
Adjourn.